By sunrise the next morning, the world had already made up its mind. Clips from the Arlington town hall flooded every corner of the internet. Jasmine Crockett's name trended across platforms, her calm authority replayed millions of times. Headlines hailed her composure, her insistence on accountability, and her refusal to be provoked.
Obviously, in Trump's America, this is exactly what he wants. And the idea that one person can get out of line and commit such a horrific crime.
Meanwhile, Trump's reactions were dissected endlessly. Every smirk, every defensive tilt of his chair, scrutinized, debated, and memed.
You and he went, believe me, after I saw that, I said, it's him. He shouldn't be doing that. Very unethical.
Overnight, what had been a routine political event became a cultural moment, one that would dominate conversations for weeks. Social media erupted. Viewers dissected every word, comparing speeches, analyzing tone, and debating the implications. Conservatives argued Trump had been unfairly challenged, while liberals celebrated Jasmine's unwavering calm.
How about this new one they have, their new star, Crockett? How about her? Is that real? Are they serious about that? That's their new star? If that's their new star, they're in serious trouble.
Across partisan lines, people were captivated not by ideology, but by presence. Jasmine hadn't shouted. She hadn't attacked. She had simply held the microphone for truth, letting her words carry the weight. Every pause, every carefully chosen phrase was a masterclass in restraint and power.
Let me be clear. Just like on his little birthday, he had his bootleg parade that cost the American people close to $50 million for free. More people showed up around this country to protest him. We are going to do the same things. We're going to hit them poles and we're going to hit them hard.
People commented on how her calmness made Trump's attacks feel smaller, almost petty. By mid-morning, cable networks replayed the exchange endlessly. Political commentators, pundits, and journalists all agreed on one thing. It wasn't about politics anymore. It was about character. Clips of Jasmine leaning forward, meeting Trump's gaze, asking the hard questions, and holding her ground went viral.
To Trump, it is the cult-like mentality that we see that is becoming pervasive in this country, where they say that he's our ruler. It doesn't matter what he does. He can violate the law. We should just ignore it. We should not ignore it.
Hashtags trended globally. Hashtag Crockett moment. Hashtag leadership under pressure. Hashtag respect matters. Memes began circulating, showing her calm posture as a stark contrast to Trump's defensive flares. Every new share reinforced the narrative. Jasmine Crockett had defined leadership that night.
This is not what we should be doing. I don't even know why we fighting with Greenland. Why we fighting with Greenland? We fighting with Canada. We fighting with Mexico. Yet we in love with Putin. What is happening? Like, this is not America. This is a terrible nightmare.
Trump, meanwhile, was already reacting behind closed doors. Staffers whispered, aides fretted, and the president scrolled through feeds, clearly unsettled. The confident smirk he carried onto the stage was replaced by subtle irritation, a rare crack in the armor. Political strategists debated how to respond, double down, ignore, or pivot, but the conversation had already escaped their control. It wasn't about managing optics anymore. It was about public perception, and Jasmine had seized the moral center. Across the country, ordinary Americans discussed the exchange at kitchens, coffee shops, and offices. They replayed the moment Jasmine described the single mother in Oklahoma, the veteran in Nevada, the communities left waiting for emergency funding. People resonated with her language, not because it was new, but because it was real.
Maybe with those that say have constitutional authority, since we care about the Constitution, then maybe we could have saved the American people not only money, but the lives that are now at risk, as we have to put out warnings for American citizens in this country.
Empathy had cut through politics in a way numbers and policies never could. Some viewers replayed clips multiple times, listening to the cadence of her voice, the precision in her words, the subtle authority she projected without raising it. They noticed the way she leaned forward just slightly when asking critical questions, the way her hands rested calmly, conveying control rather than tension.
So to be perfectly honest, the only reason that I'm continuing to consider whether or not I do this is because my polling says I can win. That is the bottom line. But at the end of the day, a poll is a poll. And so you need to actually be able to execute on that.
By late afternoon, talk shows dissected every line. Guests argued whether Trump's reactions were indicative of insecurity or just a standard defensive posture. Analysts dissected Jasmine's strategy, patience, poise, precision. Each pause, each calm reply had been deliberate, a master class in turning aggression into clarity. Former politicians, journalists, and leadership experts all highlighted the same lesson. Composure under pressure changes narratives.
People from all over the country that talked about surgeries that have been canceled, and they have been canceled because they said that they did not have adequate personnel. So my deal is, if that's the truth, then prove me wrong. I am here for it. But I will tell you that as a trained litigator, I usually don't ask questions that I don't already have the answer to.
Every slight flick of the hand, every measured glance, became a talking point about leadership under scrutiny. Trump's base was conflicted. Some cheered his confrontational energy. Others silently questioned if his dominance on stage had been broken. Polls began to reflect this subtle shift.
I know a lot about West Point. Trust me, I'm like a smart person. And I have been on their cover like 14 or 15 times. I think we have the all-time record in the history of Time magazine. I can read the polls maybe better than anybody because it seems that I understood the polls a lot better than many of the pollsters understood the polls.
Jasmine's calm insistence on accountability resonated across party lines. What started as a town hall in Arlington was now shaping national conversations about leadership, integrity, and the power of measured discourse. People watched, amazed, as someone young, deliberate, and focused had stood up to a seasoned public figure and not bent.
So I don't think that anything is going to happen to our Constitution just yet, but it is scary that we have someone in the White House that absolutely does not care about the Constitution and does not care about the law, but we knew this.
By evening, the exchanges were being used as reference points in political debates, classrooms, and podcasts. Media outlets called it a defining moment of civility in politics, while social media users framed it as how power meets principle. Jasmine Crockett didn't seek the fame or viral attention. She had entered the room to ask questions on behalf of the people who had no stage, no microphone, no platform. Yet her presence had inspired millions to demand accountability, civility, and transparency. Trump, despite his attempts to regain control, couldn't erase the imprint. Every clip of his dismissive gestures contrasted sharply with Jasmine's calm, her unwavering eye contact, her insistence that leadership was not about volume, but about truth. Late-night hosts replayed, "The power without humility is fear wearing a suit" line repeatedly, each time reinforcing her moment as a lesson in dignity. Analysts highlighted the subtle strategy. By not reacting, by refusing to be baited, Jasmine made Trump's attacks shrink under the weight of reality. By nightfall, the Arlington Town Hall was no longer a single event. It was a movement in microcosm, a reminder that confrontation doesn't require shouting, that authority can be challenged without aggression, and that integrity under pressure resonates far longer than any bravado. Jasmine Crockett's calm had become louder than any insult, sharper than any attack, and undeniable to everyone watching. Leadership was measured in respect, not ego. Even after the cameras went dark, the reverberations continued. The evening had shifted the narrative, and Jasmine had done it without raising her voice once. As the week progressed, commentary continued. Every news cycle referenced Arlington. Every social feed discussed her tone, her strategy, her courage, her lines. Power without humility is fear wearing a suit. Leadership is louder when it serves others, and people don't remember who shouted the loudest. They remember who stood their ground the longest, became memes, quotes, and lesson plans. And while the cameras faded to black, the real story continued. People remembered the pauses, the measured words, the calm authority that had pierced a room full of tension. They remembered a woman who asked for accountability when others demanded applause, who stood firm when others flinched, and who reminded everyone that leadership is measured not by volume, but by integrity. By the end of that week, the Arlington Town Hall wasn't just a political event anymore. It was history in motion, a testament to the quiet strength of those willing to hold power accountable. Millions replayed the exchange. Millions discussed it. Millions were inspired. And in that moment, it was clear. Jasmine Crockett had done more than speak. She had reminded a nation that courage under pressure doesn't need a spotlight. It just needs truth.